right, here we go. Of course, I know, we always have to make our first stop at a restaurant. How do I switch my camera to the other side? All right, here we go. Say hi.
Oh, hey.
On our way. Woohoo! All right, so we're on our way up to our first stop. So we should, I guess, tell them what we're doing.
So we're going to tell you right now that we're doing is...
Well, we're doing Girl Scout camps.
Girl Scout Haunted Tales. We're on our way up to LANIGRAIL, which is closed. We'll tell you more when we get there.
I was trying to get that creepy. There's a broken down house back there, so it was already creepy just coming up to the thing.
It's already scary.
Already scary. Alright, here we go, breaking rules as usual. We're pulling up into... LANIGRAIL is actually closed down now, which we knew.
That used to be the Rangers.
Yeah, that used to be the Ranger Lodge, which is now just a foundation. And we're gonna go back here.
Turn left.
Show you what used to be LANIGRAIL. Sorry, I gotta turn my GPS off. Already hit a roadblock, so we walking from here.
Oh, shit.
Alright, we're walking back here.
We're at LANIGRAIL. We're at the first trail.
Oh yeah, here's the first little, isn't that?
That's where, that's like the, where you, if you needed to get, like kitchenware, cookware and stuff like that, that's where you got all your stuff there.
I remember that little building.
Yeah, right across from it is where you had to park your car because you only allowed one car per campsite. So everybody else had to park in this big parking lot up here.
These two fools trying to creep around a corner. Here's the old latrine.
I'm a little nervous out here.
I could see the lodge.
Are you videoing?
Yeah, through there, but
We'll just do it.
yeah,
It's a little creepy
I'll
out
get
here.
some better footage of it from the lake. You can see the lake down there, Lake LANIGRAIL. Oh, the little platforms for the tents are still here. It brings back such memories.
Look at this one.
This one all up over here by itself, all creepy. The fire circle's still there. Alright, go.
Alright, we're going to start from the beginning. Like all campfire stories, some are facts and some are fictional stories passed down through generations. Girl Scout stories are no different. The scarier the better when sitting around a campfire. In my 30-plus years in Girl Scouts, I have definitely heard my fair share of legendary tales and alleged factual stories. Erin, Stephanie, and I have all been Girl Scouts, and today we are going to take you on a tour of our favorite camps and tell you some of our favorite spooky campfire stories. What we don't know is which stories are true and which are just spooky tales passed down to make camping more interesting. We're currently, as you know, in Camp LANIGRAIL. This is by far one of our favorite camps. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, this camp was closed and sold. This camp was once a beautiful place with several tent campsites and a beautiful lodge. The lodge that sat overlooking a lake, making it a pristine location to camp. While the lake was beautiful, there was a dark history surrounding the lake. Is that fact or fictional?
So you can see how big the lake is.
Well, I can't read while I'm walking.
Well, then just hold on for a second.
My eyeballs don't allow that. My old eyes don't allow that. Legend tells, a group of kids from neighboring houses broke into the boathouse and borrowed canoes. They rode out onto the lake and started started climbing around. They lost their balance, tumbled into the lake. A few of the kids could not swim and drowned before help could arrive. After several attempts of dragging the lake, their bodies were never found. Campers through the years have allegedly reported seeing kids running through the woods, which in itself isn't strange because, after all, the Girl Scout camp, it is a Girl Scout camp, and there are homes nearby where kids are playing in the woods. But the reports have said the kids' feet do not touch the ground as they run. They seem to be elevated and floating in the air. So that happens in those woods over there across from the lake. Another legend tells a huge furry creature being seen in the woods across the lake. Some claim it looks like Bigfoot, while others claim it looks like a wolf-like creature running on its hind legs. There have also been reports of odd, strange growling or howling in the woods. I have to note that during a camp out, I've actually heard these sounds while camping. Is it coyotes, dogs, wolves, or is there truly a strange creature that lurks in these woods? We may never know.
I say we do the lap around the lake.
Those are the legendary tales of this camp. So this shows the docks where you could swim or like do a canoe from. There used to be an actual boat shed just right there on the ground where you could get canoes and rent canoes and things like that, which is where our legendary canoe tale comes from.
Yeah, we were standing right there telling the stories, and now we're walking around the lake so that we can get a better view of the
and these
lodge.
Woods over here that we're heading to are the ones where you see the floating kids and the
right into them.
Wolf-like creatures. So now we're in the woods where the alleged kids are seen running, floating, and the wolf-like creature has been seen. We're across from the lodge on the other side of the lake.
Yeah, it's hard to see, but the lodge is.
And I will tell you, there's lots of creepy
straight
sounds,
through there.
but I'm pretty sure that's a lot of acorn falling.
Show is.
Because that's what I keep telling Stephanie it is. Are acorns falling? But literally, like every acorn has to be falling off of the tree.
It is. I hear them falling to the ground.
For all these acorns now.
Okay, we came over to get a view of the lodge. Oh, there it is.
I can't believe they shut this place down. It's the best. Well, it has its creepy tales. We spent many, many camp out here.
This is our childhood. This is my childhood, Stephanie's childhood, even Eric's.
Right.
He was a Girl Scout.
And Brandon.
So sad.
And see, this lodge sits literally right on the lake. And the woods right across there, where all the haunted, creepy tales are. Stephanie just got attacked by a spider web.
You have it on camera?
No.
Oh, that's funny.
Good.
While there are scary legends of every Girl Scout camp, quite frankly, the scariest part about a Girl Scout camp is that building right there. And we have an inside picture of it. The latrine.
All right, we decided to walk back and check out the other campgrounds. Look at it.
Maybe it's all still here.
All the platforms are still here. I know that this video is supposed to be about haunted and creepy, but I just can't help but get all emotional when I walk back here and see our old spot.
We actually even did family camping back in this spot. This was our favorite campsite. And it was creepy, but it was fun.
It was super creepy, especially when you have leaders who would tell you ghost stories and scare the whole troop every single camp out.
Yeah.
And we never learned. We never learned that they were liars.
It's sad to see it in this condition.
Sometimes I still think you guys weren't lying.
For anybody that doesn't know, those wooden little platforms, they had canvas tents over the top of them and then cots inside. So now the canvas tents have been removed.
So each one of these platforms was a tent. and that's where we would camp in. That was the best part, that you were actually in like a platform tent, not on the ground. And then this was the
Kitchen.
pavilion or whatever you want to call it, where we
Little kitchen diner area.
yeah.
All right, we're pushing our luck. We better get out of here.
Right. The helicopters are coming for us. We can hear them. We survived our first trip, and now we are on to our second camp of the day. We are en route to our next destination. It took a little finagling to find the address for this one, since it technically no longer exists, but you can't hide nothing from us. We'll find it.
We're going to Camp Ross. Tell you about it in a minute.
Yep. So we've arrived at our subdivision called Ross Trails, which may be on the property that the old Girl Scout camp was on, but we gonna keep on looking.
We're going to find it.
We gonna find something. I refuse to believe that there's just nothing left. So after driving around to a bunch of new subdivisions, we found the Fernald Reserve. So we're going to drive back here and check it out. We know that Fernald was close to the campground because this is the reason they shut the campground down.
Which we'll tell you about in a minute.
Which Mom will tell you all about in our story.
But clearly, the camp was closed and sold because the area in which it's supposed to be, like Aaron said, is nothing but new development and cornfields.
This is probably about as close as we're going to get to wherever Ross used to be. We walked back a trail at the Fernald Reserve into the woods. So Mom's going to tell you the story about Ross.
Right. Ross is a little bit further out, but like we said, all we could tell close to where Ross used to be were new developments and so forth. But back in the day, a little bit of history. Camp Ross Trails was formally dedicated in May of 1959. Unfortunately, the fate of being built too close to the Fernald plant closed the camp in October of 1988. The fear of Fernald's toxic nuclear production was too great a risk to keep the camp open. I spent many years camping at Camp Ross when I was a child. I remember many things about this camp: the many trails, the terrific tree house unit, the small chapel that was built for Sunday worship. It was creepy in itself, I will tell you. But what I remember most are the spooky and sometimes sad tales. Lots of tales. Legend tells of 2 girls who disappeared in the 60s while camping. Their gear was found in their tents, but their bodies were never recovered. The tale tells of cover-ups to keep the story from being leaked to the news media and potentially tainting the camp's image. Campers through the years have claimed to see girls' ghostly images on the trails and hearing their laughter, particularly near the chapel. So that was the one tale that I could find, and I actually remember that tale myself, which I guess is probably why we always thought the chapel was creepy. Not that it was creepy in itself, because really it was just like a small structure, not even like something you could go into. We actually have a picture of it. But because of that tale of the girl's ghosts being seen near it, I think is why everybody was freaked out by the chapel. So sadly enough, like it said, Camp Ross was closed down in 1988, and it looks from today's discovery to be lots of new developments and gone for good.
Yep, it's completely gone. We couldn't find any kind of remnant. This is the best we could do. So unfortunately, like LANIGRAIL is still intact. It could easily be reopened. Hopefully it does someday, because we loved it, but it looks like Ross is gone forever. Our next stop is Butterworth. I need to get a picture or a video of the main sign. We already blew past it. But there's one of the lodges. Butterworth has a pool and everything. There's one of the lodges. Actually, I think, what is that? Is that a lodge, or is that one of their,
I don't know
like,
Butterworth very well.
latrines?
No, I think it's something, but it's not.
Camp Butterworth! There's the sign. So here's one of the lodges at Butterworth. We actually got a story about this one.
Okay.
Alright, here's the campfire behind the lodge.
So we got to hurry up because we're again trespassing. So this story for this lodge was, actually a ranger tells this story. Now, whether it's fact or whether it's just fiction, we don't know. But it goes that when everybody was gathered around a campfire, a little girl ignored what she had been taught about sticking with her camp buddy. Any Girl Scout knows that you have to have a buddy. It's the buddy plan. Well, she ignored that. She heard a little rustle in the bush and thought she might catch a rabbit or something to keep as a pet. She quietly snuck off
I'm
after
hearing
the
a little
sound.
rustle in the
I
bush
heard a
right
little rustle
now.
too. I'm about ready to rustle back to the car. So she heard a rustling sound. I hear all kinds of rustling sounds. All right, let's go back. So she quietly snuck off to the sound. Hold on a minute. I'm over too far ahead. Okay, so she quietly snuck off after the sound. What are you doing?
So she snuck off after the sound thinking she could catch a bunny.
Right.
It wasn't very long until her camp buddy noticed the girl was missing.
Where do you see that?
And she told the scout leader about it.
Oh, okay. The rest of the girls were ushered back to the cabin right here, this cabin right here, and the scout leader, along with a few of the moms, gathered their flashlights and set out to look for her. A short time later, a terrible storm blew in, making it impossible to continue to look for her. The moms decided it was best to turn back to continue the search after the storm had passed. However, the scout leader refused to give up, as all scout leaders would. With her hair plastered to her face, rain and lightning, she refused to give up. She bravely walked on into the woods, calling the girl's name. The sound of her call could be heard over and over again until it faded away. When the moms arrived back to the cabin, they discovered that the little girl had found her way back on her own, and except for a few scratches, she was none worse for the wear. The violent storm continued through the night, but all was still again in the morning. I do hear it, so let's just get done here. However, there wasn't a sound or sight of the scout leader. The moms alerted the park ranger, and the search party was formed, but no trace was ever found of the leader. That was years ago, but some people say they can still hear the ghostly sounds of the leader screaming the girl's name. They say if you listen quietly by this campfire, you can hear it. Many, many girls have said they have heard the leader's voice calling the girl's name in the night.
Spooky.
Spooky.
All right, we're gonna get out of here before we get kicked out.
Spooky.
Look in the windows.
No, I'm not looking in the windows. I've heard all
There
been
you go,
here
look in the
back here. This
What am
is
I looking in the
creepy.
windows for?
I don't know. See what's in there.
Look, we were deep into LANIGRAIL, and I don't feel as creepy as I feel right now at this place.
There's soap in there.
They still rent this. This place.
There's a light on in there.
There it is.
You know, I'm doing like I always do. I'm going back to the car.
All right, we's out of here. Here we are at our next destination
And last.
Camp Stonybrook. All right, we are pulling in.
Tell you about it in a minute. We're gonna see if the ranger will let us go walk around.
Better.
If not, we're gonna have to do some
We're just gonna trespass.
trespassing.
All right, here we go. Well, maybe you drive in by the lodges now.
There's a truck.
You always did.
Oh yeah, there's the lodges. I remember. Oh, the mirror's right in the way.
You have to knock on his door.
You've arrived. You've arrived.
Yeah, because we'll definitely get arrested here if we don't ask.
We're gonna go talk to the ranger and make sure we're allowed to go walk around.
I'm not going up there.
Good.
All right, our last stop is Camp Stonybrook. Let's move close the cars again. So this is by far one of the most bizarre tales to tell. Stonybrook is one of the largest campgrounds that I've ever been out, and it boasts some of the creepiest tales to tell. There is a particular campsite that sits at the top of the hill in an open field surrounded by woods. The setting itself is enough to send creepy senses reeling, but add a spooky legends to the mix, and it makes for a great campsite for those who truly love spooky environments, like this one. We've actually camped in that site many times. We were hoping to be able to walk to it.
Oh, get some video of it.
A few legends from this particular campsite. Girls have seen strange lights in the woods. One story tells of girls being abducted from their tents and waking up in the middle of the woods unharmed but confused. In another area of the camp, not this particular campsite, a story tells of girls hiking through the woods coming upon a strange fire circle that was still warm. After closer observation, a tiny cross was found. They left the cross and kept hiking. They soon came across what seemed like the same warm fire circle, and after closer observation, the same tiny cross. Feeling uneasy, they quickened their pace to get back to their campsite, and before long came across a third warm fire circle and tiny cross. They were positive they were not walking in circles, but the likelihood of coming across the same three warm fire circles and tiny cross was very slim. They began to panic at the thought of being lost in a circle, so they began to run in a different direction than they would have been walking. Soon they came upon the same warm fire circle and tiny cross. Frantic, they ran until they were free from the woods and on the road which took them back to their camp. After telling their troop leader of their findings, the leader asked them to take her on the trail. They walked the trail for miles and could not locate one fire circle or tiny cross. Last but not least, the most bizarre tale of tales of any Girl Scout tale I've ever heard. But this happened here at Camp Stonybrook. Back in the mid-70s, on a clear starry night, the peaceful slumber of girls sleeping in a campsite was disturbed by a loud sound and bright lights. The lights and sound were coming from a distant, vacant campsite further back in the woods. The disturbance lasted only minutes, but it was enough to alarm the girls and the leaders. They left their campsite and went to the ranger station to tell him of the disturbance. The ranger, too, had heard the commotion, but chalked it off to a loud, low-flying plane. The next day, when the girls and leaders awoke, they saw police and fire officials in the area where the disturbance had taken place. The ranger at that time was rounding up campers and telling them the camp had been evacuated, but never gave an explanation. The story through the years became that of a UFO landing near the vacant campsite. The area surrounding the site was burned and all foliage was gone. The area was roped off and the campsite was closed. The only truth I know about this story is the area was noted as a do not hike area, and the campsite remained closed for years, even during the years of my camping here and my girls camping here. That campsite, we were kind of hoping to be able to walk back to, was still there, but was never used again. So that was kind of odd that that took place. During a camp out in the late 90s, being my usual can't follow the rules kind of gal, we hiked back to see if we could find any obvious truth to the tale. The only obvious signs were that of the vacant and deserted campsite and the fact that there didn't seem to be a whole lot of new plant growth in the area after 20 years. So who knows, could there have been a UFO? Who knows? Also noted about this camp, in 2016, a few years ago, a tornado hit, causing damage but no injuries. So, that's our haunted tales of these campsites.